The spaceship landed with a soft hum, its silver body glinting under the light of the twin moons. Captain Jaden stepped out, his boots crunching on the glowing blue sand. He had never seen a planet like this before. The sky a deep purple, streaked with green clouds that moved like smoke. Towering structures rose in the distance, alive with strange pulses of light that seemed almost like a heartbeat. Jaden adjusted his helmet and looked around, excitement mixing with nervousness. The mission was clear: explore the planet, meet its leaders, and learn what secrets it held. But nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to see. As he walked toward the largest building, a palace that shimmered like liquid metal, a figure appeared. It was the alien queen's nurse, tall and elegant, her skin glowing faintly, eyes sharp and curious. She moved with a grace that seemed impossible for any human to match, and yet there was something friendly in her smile. "Welcome, visitor," she said in perfect English, her voice soft but commanding. Jaden swallowed nervously, unsure how to respond. He had prepared diplomatic greetings, formal bows, even a small gift. Instead, he blurted, "Yes, dear," as a joke, a little nervous chuckle escaping him. The nurse's eyes widened for a moment. Then she laughed, a sound like wind chimes in the night. "You are bold, little human," she said. And then, to Jaden's shock, "I shall call you mate." Jaden froze, unsure if this was good or bad, his heart racing. "Mate?" he asked, trying to hide his surprise. "Yes, mate," she replied, smiling and gesturing for him to follow. As they walked through the palace gates, Jaden could not stop staring. The walls seemed alive, shifting colors and patterns as if they were thinking. Plants with transparent leaves floated in the air, and small creatures with wings like glass darted around. Everything was beautiful and strange, and he felt like he had stepped into a dream. The nurse led him to a grand hall, where the ceiling stretched higher than he could see. Strange machines hummed quietly along the walls, and holographic images floated in midair. Jaden's curiosity grew, but so did his anxiety. He knew he had to be careful. One wrong move could anger the alien queen, a ruler known for her power and wisdom. "You have courage," the nurse said, reading his thoughts, and a sense of humor. "That may keep you alive here." Jaden smiled nervously, trying to hide how small and unprepared he felt. He followed her deeper into the palace, noticing how other beings, both alien and robotic, glanced at him curiously. Some seemed friendly, some wary, and others just ignored him entirely. The nurse stopped in front of a large door that glowed faintly with golden light. "This is where the queen awaits," she said softly, "but she does not like surprises. Behave with respect, and perhaps she will find you interesting." Jaden nodded, trying to remember every protocol he had studied. He could feel his palms sweating inside his gloves, but he could not back down now. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden alarm sounded, red lights flashing along the walls. Robots scurried through the corridors, and the nurse's expression turned serious. "Stay close," she whispered. "There is danger even in the palace. Some do not welcome outsiders." Jaden's heart pounded, a mix of fear and excitement filling him. He realized that this world was far more dangerous than he had imagined. As they moved quickly through the hallways, Jaden could not help but glance at the nurse. She was calm, confident, and mysterious, a guide in a world that seemed impossible to understand. And then he remembered her words, her laughter, her calling him mate. A smile tugged at his lips despite the tension. Perhaps, he thought, this adventure was going to be more than just exploration. Perhaps it was the start of something extraordinary. And as they approached the queen's chamber, Jaden felt a shiver of anticipation. He had no idea what awaited him behind the golden doors. But one thing was certain: his life on this planet, and maybe even his destiny, was about to change forever. Jaden followed the nurse through the golden doors, his heart beating fast. The chamber inside was unlike anything he had imagined. It was enormous, the ceiling lost in shadows, glowing symbols floating in midair like stars. The alien queen sat on a throne that seemed carved from light itself, her presence powerful and commanding. Her eyes glimmered with intelligence and curiosity, scanning Jaden as if she could read his very thoughts. Jaden bowed politely, tried to appear confident, though he felt tiny and unsure. The nurse stepped slightly ahead of him. Her glow dimmed just enough to make her seem like a shadow. "Your Highness," she said softly, "this is Captain Jaden from Earth. He comes in peace." The Queen's gaze flicked to Jaden, studying him carefully, and then a slow smile curved her lips. "Bold, unusual, and reckless," she said, her voice like a melody and a command at the same time. "You may survive here yet." Jaden blinked, unsure whether this was a compliment or a warning. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. The Queen leaned forward slightly, her eyes locking on his, and for a moment, Jaden felt like he was being examined under a cosmic microscope. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, a sound that shook the room with energy and warmth. The tension eased just enough for Jaden to smile nervously. He was alive, at least for now. After a few formal words, the Queen dismissed him with a subtle gesture. The nurse motioned for Jaden to follow, and they left the chamber quietly. As they walked through the palace corridors, the atmosphere changed. Shadows seemed to twist in impossible ways. Doors appeared where there had been none, and faint whispers echoed, words in a language Jaden could not understand, yet somehow felt he almost did. "This palace is older than your planet," the nurse explained, "and it remembers everything, every thought, every secret, every betrayal." Jaden shivered, realizing that even a small mistake could have consequences far beyond what he imagined. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, his voice low, glancing at her cautiously. The nurse smiled, but her eyes were unreadable. "Because you amuse me, mate." And amusement is a rare thing in a place like this. As they turned a corner, a section of the corridor shifted before Jaden's eyes, revealing a hidden passage. "Follow me," the nurse whispered, "but stay silent. Not all beings in this palace welcome outsiders, even if the Queen does." Jaden followed, trying to match her calm, precise movements. The walls seemed to hum with energy, and the air smelled faintly of ozone and spice. Strange creatures with translucent skin and glowing eyes watched them from the shadows, vanishing when Jaden tried to focus. Finally, they reached a large chamber filled with floating objects, tools, devices, and glowing orbs that seemed alive. "This is where the Queen's most important secrets are kept," the nurse said, gesturing to the objects. Jaden's curiosity burned, but so did caution. He reached out to touch a small orb, and it reacted instantly, pulsing with a warm light. The nurse's hand shot out, stopping him. "Do not touch. Even curiosity can be dangerous here." Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a low vibration ran through the chamber. Jaden's pulse quickened. Someone or something was approaching, and fast. The nurse pressed him against the wall, her calmness contrasting with his rising panic. A tall figure emerged from the shadows, armored in black and silver, eyes glowing red. "Who dares enter the restricted chambers?" the figure demanded, voice like grinding metal. Jaden froze, unable to speak. The nurse stepped forward, her presence radiating authority. "He is with me. Leave, or face the Queen's wrath." The figure hesitated, studying them, then slowly backed away, disappearing into the shadows. Jaden exhaled, his relief mingling with fear. "Every corner of this palace has eyes," the nurse said quietly, "and not all of them see as we do. Be careful, mate." Jaden nodded, realizing for the first time that this world was more dangerous and complex than he had ever imagined. And yet, despite the danger, a strange thrill ran through him. He was part of something bigger, something extraordinary. As they left the chamber, the nurse glanced at him, a faint smile on her lips. "You will need courage, wit, and a little luck to survive here," she said. Jaden swallowed, his mind racing. He knew one thing for certain. The palace had already begun to change him. and the adventure was only just beginning. The palace corridors seemed endless, twisting and turning like a living maze. Jaden followed the nurse closely, his senses alert to every flicker of light, every shadow that moved too quickly. He had thought the queen's world was strange before, but now he realized the palace itself was alive, watching, learning, and testing him. "You must understand, mate," the nurse whispered, her voice calm but urgent. "Not everyone here is loyal to the queen. Some wish to see outsiders fall." Jaden's stomach tightened, fear and excitement battling inside him. He had trained for hostile worlds, but nothing had prepared him for this, where beauty hid danger and every corner held a secret. Suddenly, the floor beneath them shifted, glowing panels sliding aside to reveal a shadowy pit. Jaden stumbled, but the nurse grabbed his arm, steadying him with surprising strength. "Careful," she said, her eyes scanning the darkness below. "Some traps are old, and some are new. The palace changes itself when it wishes." Jaden nodded, heart racing, realizing that every step forward could be a step into danger. They moved quickly, passing rooms filled with alien machines, glowing artifacts, and floating holograms that displayed worlds Jaden had never seen. Some seemed like warnings, others like invitations to explore deeper. He reached out to touch one, and the nurse's hand stopped him again. "Not yet, mate. Curiosity can kill more than weapons here." As they turned another corner, a sudden scream echoed through the halls, high-pitched and piercing. Jaden froze, fear gripping him. The nurse's eyes narrowed, and she whispered, "We are not alone. Follow me quietly." They slipped into a shadowed side corridor, hearts pounding, the walls vibrating faintly as though reacting to their presence. A group of strange alien guards appeared ahead, their armor dark and reflective, faces hidden behind glowing visors. Jaden's mind raced. Any mistake could mean capture or worse. The nurse pressed him against the wall, her hand glowing faintly with energy, shielding them both. The guards passed, scanning the halls carefully, and then disappeared, leaving the corridor silent again. Jaden exhaled slowly, realizing how dangerous this palace really was. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the heart of the palace, unlike any room he had seen before. The ceiling stretched into darkness, and hundreds of glowing orbs floated in perfect patterns, humming with energy. The nurse moved to one of the orbs and whispered words in her alien language, causing it to pulse and shift, revealing a hidden door. "This," she said, "is the Queen's personal archive. Only the trusted may enter." Jaden's eyes widened. He had never felt closer to true alien knowledge, yet also more exposed to danger. Before they could enter, the room trembled violently, a deep rumble shaking the walls. Jaden nearly fell, grabbing the nurse's arm. Through the trembling shadows, a figure emerged, tall and terrifying, cloaked in black energy. Its eyes glowed like molten fire, and every step it took seemed to drain the light from the room. "Who dares enter the hidden archive?" it demanded, voice deep and echoing. Jaden's courage wavered, but the nurse stepped forward, her aura flaring like a shield. "This human is under my protection. Leave or face the Queen's wrath," she said, calm but deadly. The figure paused, then vanished into a swirl of darkness, leaving the chamber trembling and silent. Jaden exhaled shakily, adrenaline pumping through his veins. He realized the nurse was not just powerful. She was a force the palace itself feared. "And mate," she said quietly, a small smile tugging at her lips, "you are going to need more courage than you think." Inside the hidden archive, Jaden glimpsed holograms of galaxies, star maps, and ancient wars that span millennia. He saw strange devices capable of bending reality, and records of beings far older and stronger than humans. His mind spun with questions, but the nurse placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, grounding him. "Knowledge is dangerous here," she said, "and some secrets should never leave these walls. But for you, perhaps it is time." Jaden felt a mix of fear and wonder, realizing he had stepped into a world far beyond imagination. The palace was alive, full of secrets, and filled with beings that could either help or destroy him. And yet, despite the danger, he could not stop. He had to learn to survive, to grow stronger. Because the adventure was only beginning, and the universe had already chosen him for something extraordinary. The palace trembled once more, deeper this time, as if the planet itself was warning them. Jaden's heart pounded in his chest as he followed the nurse through narrow corridors lit by glowing walls. Every shadow seemed alive, every sound amplified in the silence. He had begun to understand that this world was not just strange. It was dangerous, unpredictable, and powerful beyond imagination. Suddenly, alarms blared, red lights flashing violently. The palace was on lockdown, and Jaden's stomach twisted into knots. The nurse grabbed his arm and pulled him into a side passage, moving faster than he thought possible. "They're coming," she said, her eyes sharp. "An outside faction, unknown and deadly. They will stop at nothing to reach the queen." Jaden followed, adrenaline sharpening his senses. He had trained for combat and danger, but nothing like this, where even the palace itself could betray him. As they rounded a corner, he saw alien soldiers, unlike any he had encountered before. Their armor was black and jagged, glowing faintly with red energy. Their weapons pulsed with light, capable of burning through walls as easily as air. The nurse whispered quickly, "We must reach the inner sanctum. The queen must be warned before they breach the palace." Jaden nodded, gripping his own weapon, heart racing. They moved silently at first, avoiding patrols and traps, but the aliens seemed to anticipate their every move. It was as if the palace itself was testing him, the nurse, and the queen's defenses against a cunning enemy. They reached a massive hall where the queen's advisors and guards had gathered. The queen herself appeared, radiating light and power, commanding attention with every movement. "Report," she demanded, her voice echoing through the chamber. The nurse stepped forward quickly. "An external faction approaches, Your Majesty. They are fast, organized, and ruthless." The queen's eyes narrowed, scanning the projections of the approaching forces. "Then we prepare," she said, calm and deadly. "But only the brave will survive what is to come." Jaden felt a surge of determination. He had come to this planet as an observer, a visitor, but now he was part of the fight, part of the defense. He followed the nurse to the armory, where ancient weapons of alien design floated in the air, glowing with energy. She handed him a small device that fit in his hand, pulsing with light. "This will protect you," she said, "but courage and quick thinking will be your true weapons, mate." Jaden swallowed, gripping the device tightly, realizing the true danger that awaited him outside the palace walls. As they prepared to face the invading faction, the first wave arrived, crashing against the outer defenses like a storm. The palace shook, walls glowing with protective energy as the queen unleashed her power. Jaden ducked behind a pillar, dodging energy blasts and falling debris. The nurse fought beside him, graceful and deadly, each movement precise, taking down multiple enemies with ease. Jaden realized he had to act quickly to survive, using both his training and the alien technology she had given him. He joined the battle, finding that his human instincts and quick thinking allowed him to adapt to the strange weapons and tactics. The invading soldiers were fierce, but Jaden noticed patterns in their attacks, weaknesses in their formation. With the nurse's guidance, he exploited them, turning the tide in small but significant ways. Suddenly, one of the invading leaders, taller and more terrifying than the rest, appeared in the hall. Its eyes glowed like molten fire, and its weapon hummed with destructive energy. Jaden froze for a moment, but the nurse's hand on his shoulder grounded him. "You're ready, mate. Now show them what Earth can do," she whispered, and a spark of courage surged through him. The battle intensified, walls shaking and alarms blaring. Jaden fought with skill and determination, the palace itself seeming to respond to his courage. The nurse moved like a shadow beside him, protecting him and striking with deadly precision. Together, they pushed back the invaders, but Jaden knew this was only the beginning. The faction was relentless, and the palace held secrets and dangers yet to reveal. As the dust settled and the outer defenses stabilized, Jaden looked at the nurse, sweat and grime on his face. "Are we safe?" he asked, heart still racing. She shook her head slightly, eyes scanning the corridors. "Not yet, mate. This is far from over. Something bigger is coming, and the palace will demand more than courage this time." Jaden swallowed, realizing that survival would require wit, bravery, and trust. And as he looked at the glowing walls, the mysterious shadows, and the pulse of the living palace, he knew one thing for certain. The adventure was only getting more dangerous, more thrilling, and more extraordinary. The palace was quiet for only a moment before chaos returned. Jaden's heart pounded as he ran through the corridors, the hum of the palace beneath his feet echoing like distant drums. The invading faction had retreated for now, but their damage was done, and worse, the nurse had vanished during the fight. Jaden's stomach twisted in worry, panic rising. "She wouldn't leave me behind," he muttered to himself, gripping the alien device she had given him, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. He remembered her warning. The palace watched everything, but some dangers could slip even past its eyes. Jaden knew he had to act quickly. Hesitation could mean she was lost forever. He followed the faint traces of glowing energy she had left behind, stepping carefully to avoid traps. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner threatening a new surprise. Finally, he reached a chamber deep in the restricted wings. Inside, he found the nurse, but she was surrounded, held by an alien guard far taller and stronger than any he had faced. Its eyes glowed red with malice, and its weapon hummed with energy that made the air crackle. Jaden's stomach sank, but he remembered her words, "Courage, mate. Quick thinking is your weapon." He tightened his grip on the device and stepped forward, trying to appear calm. The guard noticed him immediately, swinging its weapon, forcing Jaden to dive behind a pillar. Energy sparks flew through the chamber, walls trembling with the force of the attacks. Jaden's mind raced. He had to save the nurse without getting destroyed. He remembered the strange patterns he had seen in the invaders' attacks during the previous battle. Using that knowledge, he timed his moves carefully, dodging, weaving, and striking when the guard's weapon faltered. The nurse caught his eye, her glow brightening slightly, a silent signal of trust. Jaden realized that together they could turn the fight. He activated the device she had given him, a pulse of energy shooting forward, disorienting the guard just long enough. The nurse leapt free, striking with precision, her movements fluid and deadly. The guard roared, staggering back, and Jaden saw his chance, diving forward to grab the nurse's hand, pulling her toward the exit. As they ran through the twisting corridors, the palace seemed to shift again, walls moving to block their path. Jaden and the nurse ducked under floating debris and leaped over energy barriers. The sound of pursuit echoed behind them. Other guards had arrived, faster, more coordinated. He realized they could not fight all of them head-on, not here, not now. So he relied on speed, instinct, and the knowledge he had gained from the palace itself. They reached a narrow ventilation shaft, glowing faintly with the palace's protective energy. "This way," the nurse whispered urgently, and they slid inside, the confined space forcing them to move silently. Outside, the sounds of the invading faction's patrols grew louder, searching for them. Jaden could feel the tension, every breath heavy, every movement critical. The shaft twisted and turned, and finally, they emerged into a hidden chamber one few had ever seen. The palace itself seemed to welcome them, energy shields forming around the entrance, blocking pursuit. The nurse finally exhaled, a faint smile on her face. "You are faster than I imagined, mate," she said softly, eyes still sharp and alert. Jaden laughed nervously, adrenaline still pumping. "I couldn't let them take you." She nodded, but her gaze darkened, serious again. "The danger is far from over. They will return, stronger and smarter, and next time, the palace may not protect us so easily." Jaden realized the truth of her words, understanding that survival here meant more than courage. It required strategy, trust, and the willingness to face unimaginable threats. Yet despite the danger, a spark of excitement ran through him. He had fought beside the nurse, outsmarted powerful enemies, and survived where most humans would have fallen. And he knew one thing for certain. This planet, the palace, and the adventures ahead were far larger, more mysterious, and more dangerous than he could have imagined. As they prepared for the next wave of threats, Jaden and the nurse shared a brief glance, a silent promise of teamwork and courage. The palace hummed around them, alive with energy and secrets. And somewhere deep inside, Jaden felt it. This was only the beginning of something extraordinary, something that could change not just their lives, but the fate of the universe itself. The palace thrummed with energy, alive and restless after the recent invasion. Jaden and the nurse moved cautiously through the corridors, every shadow a possible threat. They had survived the first wave, rescued each other, and learned the palace's secrets, but nothing could prepare them for what lay ahead. The queen awaited, not just as a ruler, but as a force beyond imagination, her presence filling the grand hall with a radiance that made the air hum. Jaden felt a mixture of awe and fear, knowing this encounter could determine his fate on the planet. The nurse whispered, "Stay calm, mate. The queen respects courage, but foolishness will be punished." Jaden nodded, gripping his alien device tightly, ready for anything. As they entered the throne room, the queen's eyes met Jaden's, sharp and penetrating. "Captain Jaden," she said, her voice echoing like a melody and a command at the same time. "You have caused chaos, defied my guards, and survived the palace's tests." Jaden bowed, unsure whether he was being scolded or praised. "I only sought to survive and help those in danger," he said carefully. "I meant no disrespect." The queen tilted her head, studying him as if reading every thought, every intention. Then, with a subtle motion, she summoned energy from the walls, creating a swirling barrier of light and power. Jaden felt the raw force of her presence, a weight pressing on his chest. "This palace has watched you, tested you, and allowed you to reach me," she said. "Few outsiders have come this far." Her gaze shifted to the nurse, and Jaden noticed a flicker of tension there, subtle but undeniable. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the hall, one of the invading leaders from before, stronger and more cunning. It lunged at them with a weapon that hummed with destructive energy. Jaden reacted instantly, using the device the nurse had given him to block the attack. The queen raised a hand, a wave of energy stopping the intruder in its tracks. The hall trembled as the battle unfolded, but the queen's power was unmatched, controlling energy, space, and even the shadows themselves. Jaden realized the stakes were higher than ever. He was no longer just a visitor or a fighter. He was part of the palace's story, a human in a world where strength, intelligence, and courage could change destinies. He dodged, struck, and acted on instinct, while the nurse moved like a shadow beside him, protecting and guiding him. Together, they formed a strange, unbreakable bond, human courage meeting alien power. The invading leader roared, tried to disrupt the queen's authority, but she was unyielding. Her eyes glowed brighter, her aura radiating with force that shook the hall. Jaden could feel the energy brushing against him, testing his limits. He took a deep breath, remembering every lesson, every trap avoided, every danger faced. This was his moment to prove that humans could stand among beings far older and stronger than themselves. With a daring move, Jaden used the alien device to redirect a surge of energy toward the intruder, stunning it. The nurse leapt forward, her strikes precise, neutralizing the threat. The queen's gaze softened slightly as she observed, her voice calm but filled with power. "You have courage, wit, and the heart to face danger," she said. "You may yet be more than a visitor, Captain Jaden." Jaden exhaled, relief and pride mixing. But he knew the palace had more secrets, more dangers, and more lessons ahead. The queen gestured, and the intruder vanished, leaving the hall trembling in silence. Jaden looked at the nurse, and she gave a small nod, a silent promise that they had survived together. The queen stepped down from her throne slightly, her presence still overwhelming but less threatening. "You have proven your worth," she said, "but the universe holds challenges beyond this planet, and your journey is only beginning." Jaden felt the weight of her words, understanding that survival here was not enough. The palace had taught him courage, strategy, and trust, but the universe would demand even more. And as he followed the nurse from the throne room, he realized one thing clearly. His adventures were far from over. The galaxy was vast, mysterious, and dangerous, and he was ready to face it, guided by courage, wit, and the unexpected bond with the alien nurse. The palace was quiet, but the air buzzed with tension. Jaden and the nurse moved through the grand halls, alert for any sign of danger. Though the invading faction had been defeated, Jaden knew this was only temporary. Threats lingered in shadows, waiting, calculating, and watching. The nurse's eyes scanned the corridors, sharp and vigilant. "Mate, the palace has given us a moment of peace, but we cannot trust it completely," she whispered. Jaden nodded, the weight of their battles pressing on him. He had grown stronger, braver, and more clever than he had ever imagined. Yet he felt a chill. He knew the universe had more challenges ahead. As they reached the central chamber, a strange glow filled the room. Floating before them was a holographic projection, a star map pointing to distant galaxies, planets with unknown dangers and mysterious signals. Jaden's heart raced. This was beyond anything he had seen before. Signals from unknown worlds, the nurse explained, places the queen rarely visits, where new powers rise and fall. "We may need to act soon." Before Jaden could ask more, the palace shivered violently, and the walls seemed to shift around them. A group of alien emissaries appeared, beings of different shapes, colors, and sizes, each radiating strength and intelligence. "They've come to offer an alliance," the nurse said, eyes narrowing. But alliances in the universe are rarely simple or safe. Jaden felt the tension spike. The emissaries could be friends or spies, testing them for a future attack. One of the emissaries, taller than the rest, stepped forward, its eyes glowing a deep blue. "We have watched your bravery," it said, voice calm but commanding, "and we seek partnership. The universe faces a threat greater than you imagine, one that can destroy worlds, even this palace." Jaden exchanged a glance with the nurse, her expression unreadable, but her hand brushing his shoulder gave him courage. They were about to make a choice that could change not just their lives, but the fate of countless worlds. Suddenly, alarms blared, red streaks of light cutting through the chamber. The palace had detected movement. Another faction, even larger and faster than before, was approaching. The emissaries stiffened, weapons at the ready. Jaden realized that time was running out, that hesitation could cost countless lives. He took a deep breath, gripping the device tightly, and prepared to fight alongside allies he barely knew. The nurse whispered, her voice calm but fierce, "Mate, we must trust some, act boldly, and strike before they understand our strategy." Jaden nodded, his mind racing, analyzing weaknesses, opportunities, and the palace itself as a tool in their favor. Together, they led the emissaries through the palace defenses, setting traps and outmaneuvering the approaching threat. The invaders faltered, confused by the combined human and alien tactics, their confidence shattered. But just as victory seemed possible, a shadow loomed over the chamber, larger and darker than anything they had faced. The alien leader of the new faction had arrived, wielding energy that warped the very space around them. Jaden froze for a moment, then remembered every lesson, every danger survived, every risk taken. With a surge of courage, he activated the device fully, its energy merging with the palace's protective aura. The nurse and emissary struck in perfect coordination, forcing the leader back, but not destroying it completely. As the dust settled, the emissaries nodded to Jaden and the nurse, a silent agreement forming. The palace hummed, alive with energy, revealing secrets only partially understood. The nurse looked at Jaden, her eyes serious yet full of pride. You have proven yourself, mate. But the universe is calling. Greater threats, greater adventures await. Jaden felt a thrill, fear, and excitement all at once. He had started as a visitor, then a fighter, and now a leader in a universe far larger and more mysterious than he had ever imagined. And then, a distant signal flashed across the palace screens, one that no one had anticipated. A new galaxy, a hidden civilization, and a warning that the balance of power was shifting. Jaden's eyes widened, and the nurse tightened her grip on his arm. Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready for what the universe would throw at them next. The adventure had only just begun, and nothing, not even the alien queen, the palace, or the most powerful factions, could predict what would happen next.